Welcome to Full Metal RPG. I'm Richie Buzzkill, and today we're doing News on the Tens. No, wait, that's the morning show I normally do in my head while I'm getting ready for work, but we're talking to Alex in England. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Richie. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great, so to speak. That's at least what my non-existent watch tells me. Today we're doing a very interesting, we're doing a kind of a deep dive-esque thing on a very interesting game. Alex brought this to my attention, but first, Alex, introduce yourself. I know you as Alex the Puppet Master. Oh wait, that's a problem. You're Alex the Puppet Maker. Tell us why that's a problem.
Well, considering what we're going to be talking about today, which heavily involves my people who are often referred to as the puppet masters of the world. I'm a puppet maker. I create small stuff, kind of huge monsters and everything in between. And then when I'm not doing that, I do a load of kind of filmmaking and video editing and stuff like that, which, generally keeps me off the streets, which is good. So yeah, clearly I'm in media because, how could I not be? Right. But we'll get into that. Yeah.
Well, but can you mention who your people are? Now, I think that a lot of people have guessed, but I'm just gonna.
The Jews.
Oh,
we have to say it quietly.
We have to say it quietly. We don't have to look back and forth when we say it anymore. At least.
Okay.
Unless we're playing this game.
Exactly. So yeah. So I'm Jewish. I suppose I'm what you'd kind of call a lapsed Jew now. So I'm not very observant. I don't keep kosher. I don't go to synagogue. None of those things, or temple, as you guys would call it there. But it's still kind of a huge part of me. It's a huge part of my identity. And yeah, as we get into talking about this game, I'll probably explain a few other weird things about that.
Yes, and this is the game we're going to kind of semi-deep dive, kind of just talk through here is called First They Came.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you hear that name, and this is why we got into this game, we got into reading this game, is because when you hear First They Came, and a lot of the literature or at least advertising was like pink and green, so it kind of felt a little like maybe this was a game about sex.
There were a couple of people on the Discord who alluded to that, and I was like, no,
right. But yes, there's a very famous poem that it's named after that is an adaptation of a sermon, which they go into, right? But it's one of those things where, like, just seeing the image, the kind of, now, if you look at the actual book, the book is very clear. Like, you look at the front cover, it's very clear what it is.
Yeah.
But the initial advertising is like, is this a sex game? But no, this is a very serious game.
Yep.
What was your reaction to this initially? This is why.
This is why we're talking about this. So I came across this game, I don't know, maybe, what was it, like a month ago, maybe?
Yeah, it's almost a month ago. Yeah.
And I missed the Kickstarter. So this was Kickstarted. It's now out in stores, certainly all over the UK, I'm sure elsewhere. And I think my first reaction was to kind of curl up in a tiny ball. It's so if the audience isn't aware, excuse me, of the poem, or rather the poem adapted from the sermon by Martin Niemöller. This was a sermon given during the Second World War, or maybe this was post Second World War. I can't remember exactly the date, but the poem goes: first they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. And, this is a pretty, it's a hard-hitting poem, and it's, very much, I think, feeds into a lot of the stuff that's going on now, really, with, there's this, the resurgence of fascism. It's, it's a lot of fun. Fun. Yeah.
But yes, this is a very serious subject, right? This is a very serious subject, and this is a very, it's that poem. It hits you right here. It really, it is very poignant. It is, and we have, everyone that has even vaguely looked at history, this is one of the first things you even learn about history anymore. It used to be completely, but now, this persecution of the Jews and other people that were not desirable by the Nazis is a very serious subject. And to make a role-playing game about this is full of pit traps and just even what most of the well-intentioned people could fuck this up entirely.
Absolutely. And in fact, it's even slightly worse than that, because technically this isn't a role-playing game, it's a LARP. And LARPing the Holocaust. It's really so this is published by Chaos League, who I'm not very familiar with, but they're an Italian company who, as far as I can tell, are quite big. They publish a lot of LARPs. They're into kind of educational type stuff, and they do kind of the odd RPG as well. And this, I guess, kind of falls somewhere in between a LARP and an RPG.
It's kind of hybrid. And just for transparency's sake, they did give us this PDF to review.
Yes.
So I went and normally I buy everything, but in this case, where it could have been complete chuddery, I was like, I would like to see if they will just give me a PDF. So I don't have to and clearly I need to donate to somebody because of that joke in the very beginning of this episode. But I wanted to get this as a review and be more journalistic about this than I normally am, because normally I'm buying a thing and then I'm going to review the thing, right? I do not take advertising. I try to be as objective as possible, but of course that's impossible. So, but that's why I just wanted to put that out there, is they gave us this to review. So,
which was very good of them.
Yes, it was great, because I was surprised. I was like, they even answered their comment box on their webpage, and they're making this game. I was like, ooh.
So okay, this game is, in this game it's GMless, it's diceless. Those are things I'm sure we'll get into at some point. Each of the players are playing one of a kind of a bunch of people who were considered undesirables by the Third Reich during the Holocaust. So you can either play, I think, a trade unionist or a Jew or one of the Roma or a homosexual. I think that's it. There might be others as well.
There's like 6 characters. All the characters are pre-made. You do not make a character in this game, which is maybe a great idea. Maybe just a great idea. So you don't have to come up with who these people are, right? So you're going to play very specific people in this game. Yes, I'm just kind of flipping through because most of this book is the characters.
Yeah.
Like the back half of this book is the characters. And they all have like information, pages of information that you need to read. And and it's all, anyway, we'll get to the rest of that.
Yeah.
But yes. But it is sort of, I would call it a hybrid RPG LARP, right? Yeah. Because you're not walking around a room, doing space work and like
no.
that sort of thing. You're supposed to be kind of sit in a small space close together with the lights off, or online with no cameras or whatever.
Or they suggest blindfolded, which is interesting.
Well, that was also in the it says a blindfolded RP role-playing game on the very cover, right? Which also goes great above First They Came. But I'm not.
I can see where the confusion lies now.
Yeah. I'm not trying to make light of the events this game is portraying so much as just some choices that were made.
Exactly.
Are I mean, could have led down a very bad street.
Yeah, definitely. So without getting into kind of too much detail immediately, you're playing these characters. The idea is that you're all hiding in an attic, just like Anne Frank. So you're all it's Anne Frank, the RPG. So you're all hiding in an attic from the Gestapo, and you're all mulling over each other's lives. There are kind of there's a section where you all go through flashbacks, and then basically the Gestapo come find you, and at that point you have to decide who's going to get got by the Gestapo, by the Nazis, and either all of you get captured or you vote for one of you to get captured, and that's basically the game.
And listener, you might be like, wait a minute, you said this was GM-less. How does this work? Right? Because that's I have other things about, but effectively there's a soundtrack. They published, and if you have the book, you get a link to a a Google Drive that has all of the audio tracks, and someone builds a playlist of these audio tracks, and that is the soundtrack that you're playing to. And I have some issues with that, but I'll get into them later. But but that's how this works. Is it's literally each track is a section of the game. So your character's flashbacks have a very specific soundtrack that you are supposed to play this flashback to, and then you're supposed to proceed to the next. When you get to the next track, you play the next section of the game. So that's kind of how this is supposed to work. That's kind of the overview. I feel like
yeah, and I think it's important to kind of give the listeners that overview before we really get into the nitty gritty, because wow, there's a lot to get into, I think.
Yeah, there is, and we originally thought this was going to be a real problem game. we were really like, even like we were going back and forth and trying to figure out what, whether we're gonna, and finally I was like, no, we just have to go look at this. There's no reason to not look at this.
Yeah.
And they're, they do I feel like they do good work. I feel like they warn people over and over and over again that this is not a fun situation. This is not this was a real problem. This is not, we're not endorsing this. They go to great pains, I feel like, to really portray this, and as much as you can, right? It's very difficult to portray this really, and to tell people that this is not the actual thing.
Yeah. But I think it gets a little confusing, because they go to great lengths to say this is not the actual thing. This is a fictionalized account of what happened. We don't want you to play this, as if it was real. I seem to remember there's a section where they talk about like whether. I think right at the beginning they say something like, although this is a game, it's a game in quotation marks. Actually, maybe game isn't the right word for it. But then they kind of undercut that throughout the rest of it by doing things like saying that each of the characters that you're playing, all these pre-gens, are loosely based on real people.
Yeah, that's a
problem for me.
Yeah, and I don't know how loosely based they are, because I didn't do any. I guess I should have done research, as they should have themselves. Maybe they did, and I found these people, but it's, I couldn't say. But it is one of those things where it's like, well, you either need to make them completely based on people, which would be a problem, or make them all up, which would also be a problem.
Yep.
So I don't know how you don't have characters that are sort of a problem. And I think that's maybe why they ended up where they ended up.
Yeah, but, maybe.
I guess and this will be a question for the end, is this a game that should, and it's not a game, and I can't, because the only game part of this is literally the vote at the end. There's nothing you can really, and you're trying to either be voted for with your story. If you're trying to play a game, right? You're either trying to play to be the scapegoat, or you're trying to save yourself and throw somebody else overboard, right? There's really, if you're playing this as a game, which anyway, but I don't know how that's a very difficult thing to navigate, I feel like.
And let's be clear, if you are playing it as a game, the game that you're playing is who deserves to be killed in the Holocaust. That's the game.
Yes. I think they walk right up to saying that.
Yeah.
And they never say that. That is a problem. That this is, you are to be part of the Holocaust. Whether and there were a lot of people,
so one of the things in the game is that you have these flashback sections, or section, where each of you basically has to talk about like a sin that you've committed. So I mean,
or you're either you might be a collaborator. Like literally, like they find a Nazi uniform in your closet, right? Or another one is they find like a a picture of you and like Hitler.
Yeah.
I mean, the Gestapo
Hanging
are
out.
going to come and search your apartment
Yep.
and find things, and you're told what these things are, and you're supposed to set this up in your flashback.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they find these things, and everybody knows whose apartment that everybody else is, right? They say, "Oh, we found this in apartment 12," right? And you're supposed to be in one of the apartments, right? That's part of the soundtrack. And those things are supposed to be the triggers to talk about your backstory, but then try to either weasel your way out. And I'm sorry I used that word, but
yeah, no, it's that's exactly it,
or try to confess and realize, to like. And it says specifically this is not disaster tourism, but my God, is that
yeah, it really is. And in fact, there's again, all throughout it, I'm just going right to the end of this. I'm just looking on the back cover. It's this is one of the things that I feel like is quite heavy-handed in it. What do we got here? The music and ambient sounds are organically incorporated into the different scenes and provide atmospheres, clues, and threats that will make you really feel side by side with your characters. There's a lot of this, I really want to feel what these people felt in this game. And again, it's got kind of disaster tourism written all over it. I read a short review on, I think it was Dicebreaker.com, that said a similar thing, kind of independent of these guys, said, oh, this is a great game to kind of help you feel empathy towards the people that were involved in this period of history. And I was like, oh, really?
You couldn't feel that already just reading about what happened to them?
No, I've got to pretend to be one of them in order to. Oh, okay. And yeah, there's there's a lot of that.
Yeah, they go to great lengths to try and mitigate that.
Yes.
But it still does feel like, you're right, that it feels like, depending on it, I don't know if it depends. It's just really hard to like. I know we were discussing this as like, after we started reading this, is like, well, I don't know, maybe, but no, like after discussing this again, like I can't say that this is okay.
No, I mean, so I've got there's a few different problems that I have. I mean, I have many problems with this game, but they kind of fit into different categories, I guess. And I suppose, well, like one of my first questions, really, when I was reading through this, is like, who is this for? Who is it meant to be for? Who's going to play this game? So one thing that's I find at least quite difficult to explain to people about being Jewish and talking about the Holocaust, even as somebody who, I'm 41. I wasn't there. None of my family were involved in the Holocaust. My grandparents were obviously involved in the Second World War, but nobody I know was in any camps or anything like that. But within the Jewish community, the collective memory is really strong. And so despite not having been there or been involved with any of it, I, in a way, feel like I was and feel like I was there. And that's very weird. Yes. It's a very weird feeling. And, I don't know how it is over in the States, but over here, there's like trips to Auschwitz are not that uncommon. And actually, particularly like in the Jewish community, like there are groups of kids who will get taken to Auschwitz to kind of see what happened. I've got absolutely no wish to go there. Like, I know what happened. That's enough for me. I don't need to. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. I mean, if you, I mean, I feel like reading history, if you can't feel the empathy for people that go through the Holocaust or any other genocidal, like then maybe see a doctor and ask questions. I'm serious. I know that's a joke, but it's not. Go, if you can't feel for people just reading about it, or going and listening to interviews of people who went through some of this,
sure,
right? Yes, it would seem that is the goal, is to feel more empathy, right? But how can you not already? But also, like, I mean, I'm at a loss of words, because it's so it's so huge, and there are many genocides that are happening today, or continue to happen, but this is one of the most famous, for a real good reason. And who is going to play this game? I can only think of, well, I couldn't rent a black box theater to do my one-man play. So I want to get my friends involved in something like that. And that is because the problem I have with playing this game, just even like setting aside like who is going to do this, just thinking my way through as I read this, is if this is GM-less, who is telling you all of the things you're supposed to feel and do every section, right? You're supposed to be blindfolded. You're supposed to be, even if I read this, like, and I'm in this like very serious role, like, I don't know if I could follow the instructions to finish this game. That's my real problem. I mean, I have obviously the problems we've talked about already, but the playing this game is a real problem, even because the audio, and I've listened to a little bit of the audio, and that's a bit of a spoiler, but I've listened to a little bit. They don't really give instructions. Like, if the audio gave instructions, I could see how you could follow along, right? Even if you were using the same mechanism elsewhere, right? You're trying to play like then I don't know how you play this game without the sheets in front of you, or a shot caller, or a facilitator, because how do you do this? Like, so,
and also, if there's no facilitator, and let's assume that the just briefly going back to who is this game for, I don't think it's for people. It's certainly not for Jews, I can tell you that, but I don't think it's for anybody who already knows a lot about the subject, because I think if you do know a lot about the subject, you're not going to want to play this game, which means it's then for people who know little about it, in which case, if there's no facilitator there, then how do you stop a bunch of people who perhaps don't really know much about the subject getting stuff wrong and just playing out stereotypes? There's it's
and you're supposed to, and the character sheets, such as their character background, really, they have a lot of information about what these people, they give context, but you can, people speed read, it's so easy to fuck this up.
I mean,
it's like, maybe not.
Also, let's see. I got to try and get to the where's character flashback. Sorry about this.
Characters on page 73 start on 74.
Oh, okay, 73. Okay, so they have. Oh, here we go. Characters. So they have. You're right. They have a lot of information, but I don't necessarily trust that information. So
yeah, we would have. You would have to vet.
Well, so the first obviously the first character that I looked at was the Jewish character, Anna / Aaron, the tenacious Jewish worker. I mean,
the camera needs to come to me. Just like the word tenacious Jew worker. Just me with my hand on my head. Just imagine if you're listening to this, the Picard facepalm gif, like. So I look at the introduction to Anna Aaron, and there's a little bit on context. So it tells you about the Jews living in Germany during the 1930s, and then we get to the flashback bit, and it says bar mitzvah, and it says you are 16 years old, and it's your bar mitzvah day. No, it's not. Not unless you're having your bar mitzvah 3 years late. I was like, wait a minute, that's 13.
Yeah, sometimes 12, but that's certainly not 16.
Right.
And I just at that point I was like, oh yeah, they didn't have any Jews involved in this writing, did they?
Yeah. No. And I'm
sure the same goes for. Not having any members of the Roma community involved in this writing, or who knows who else?
Communists.
So, communists, gays, and anyone. So it's
that's kind of.
At that point, I just kind of think, basic research, people. And I thought maybe it's that there aren't that many Jews in Italy anymore. And I was like, why would that be? It's because they were all murdered in the Holocaust. Anyway.
Yes. But also the internet exists. Okay. Yes. This is an internet level age game.
Google is your friend.
You can find sensitivity readers.
Yeah.
In there are people out there that do this for a living. You should go pay them. Don't just ask your Jewish friend to sensitivity read for free.
Yeah, I'm not even sure they did that.
Right. I don't think so. But there was some, and I had kind of hopes that somebody had actually done that, because some people that I sort of trust in the indie RPG scene had quotes on the Kickstarter.
Right. Okay.
And then now after we've discussed this, I'm like, no, sorry. No, I don't think anybody actually got to read this game before they quoted on it. I think they got a thumbnail sketch and then, or maybe they did, but I don't think they read enough. God, it's
yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. It's difficult not to kind of jump around a lot with.
Well,
with this game.
That's fine. It is what it is, and
I guess there.
I'm just going back to the flashbacks, and I'm just reading the questions you're supposed to answer in your flashback. What is your character's crime? Why did they do it? Who suffered the consequences? Mm-hmm. What were the consequences? What lies were they telling themselves to justify this action? Like, that's the flashback scene. That's like your opening scene for your character. And apparently your crime is when you're at your bat mitzvah. Like,
apparently so. Yeah.
I don't know.
And also the idea that all these people, from various communities, had to commit a crime in order to get to where they are.
I feel like that's just alleviating the guilt to the idea of the scapegoat at the end.
Yeah.
I think that's the idea is, clearly he was, even though he was a trade unionist communist, he actually collaborated to try and mitigate, the what was happening at the time, to try and but clearly that was so bad that they feel bad, so they go give themselves up to the Gestapo, right?
Yeah.
That's supposed to be the arc, right?
Yeah.
But that's how many you don't there's only really two arcs in this game. You either feel guilty, which you should probably feel guilty for playing this game, but feel guilty, or everybody else is like, fuck you, get out.
Yeah.
Or I guess the third one is nobody goes and then everybody gets caught. Like,
yeah, everybody just feels terrible.
I mean, it's a play. It's literally a play.
Yeah.
It's like a passion play almost. Like, it's
yeah, it very much so. And the thing that we haven't mentioned is actually after the Gestapo catch you, there's then the epilogue section where you you have to either write a letter as your character who has basically dobbed someone into the Gestapo, and talk about how you feel about that, or you have to write a letter as somebody who's been taken to a concentration camp and they're about to get executed, and this is like your last letter home. I don't even know. I don't
know how you even don't break down in tears trying to write such a thing. Right? Just even trying to think like through all of the suffering you would have gone through, like writing after all this like darkness, and you're doing and trying to write such a thing and then read it to people, like that's so supremely difficult in my mind to try and do that. It baffles me. So like,
or it's not, which
in which case you should
really
see a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because when we were talking about this on the Discord, Malcolm, who I have a great respect for, but who from time to time likes to play devil's advocate, was saying to me, look, RPGs aren't always meant to be fun. You can, it's okay to explore difficult themes in RPGs and maybe not have, a wonderful fun time. And I agree with that, but it didn't have to be, you could have explored these themes without using the Holocaust, like very easily. And the other thing I find really interesting is that I feel like they've misunderstood the poem in a very basic way. So this RPG is about what happens when people are under pressure in a horrible police state, or in a horrible regime, and they end up turning on each other. That's not what the poem's about.
No, it's literally I didn't stand up for my for all the other people, and then they came for me. Like, wouldn't it be more apt to the poem if you stood up for? You still might see a tragic end. You probably will see a tragic end, but you stood up for your fellow person.
Yeah.
Your fellow human, Yeah. And I feel like that may have been a better arc. The game is like, I will volunteer.
Yeah. And I think you can, I think it says in the game, you can't vote for yourself, but you can encourage other people to vote for you.
Right. You can go that route, but it's a real narrow path.
Yeah, really is. So I think I kind of going back a bit, just looking at the at the layout of the book, I mean, immediately, as soon as I opened the first page, like my hackles were up, because again, if you think about someone like me coming at this from a kind of, this kind of collective memory perspective that I mentioned. The first thing you see on the inside front cover is that famous photograph of Auschwitz.
Yeah.
With with the gate, with the words over it, Arbeit macht frei. Work will set you free, and that just. Well, so immediately I'm like, nope.
Yeah, no, I agree, but also I'm sort of concerned. I don't understand why, because they have the poem on the first 2 pages.
Yes,
but part of the poem is X'd out, and it's literally that came for the Jews, then they came for me, right? So they X out part of the poem, but then they repeat it later, and I'm not certain.
So I don't
graphically. That's very weird to me.
I mean, so I don't think they actually do X out any of it. It just looks like they've X'd out some.
I think that was just it's weirdly played. Anyway, sorry, graphic design nerds.
No. My wife is an illustrator and does a lot of layout work as well, and she took a look at this, and that was her main problem with this game. Was like, this is a crime against like layout and typography.
Well, I feel like they looked at, I don't know when this was published. When was this published?
Last year, one of those.
The copyright date on the front page. Anyway, I feel like it's one of these times when somebody learned the wrong lesson from Morkborg. Like it's literally they looked at Morkborg and said, oh, what people want now is a different layout on every page.
Yeah, a different font on every page, a different color. Yeah. No,
yeah. It very much feels like it's the same problem that Hollywood has when they see a good movie, is they learn the completely wrong lesson. It's the same thing that most RPG designers learned the wrong lesson, is if you're not a master of graphic design, of this kind of blended typography that the guys at Morkborg are, maybe you shouldn't try to have a different layout on every page. Just and I'm looking at page 10, and this is that same like, what is First They Came, and it's a woman with a giant blindfold on with red and green letters above it, and it looks like maybe that game we were talking about that it's not.
Or so throughout the rest of the book, it's they have either illustrations, kind of very kind of sketchy style illustrations, or photographs, which I'll come back to in a minute, because that's a major issue for me. But then this page 10 and 11, there's this double spread, as you say, with this photograph of this woman with a blindfold on, but it looks like something from the 1980s.
Yes,
like it looks, or the 90s maybe. It's like, it looks like it's I don't know, it should be like a poster for the next Scream movie or something. It's
very bizarre.
Yeah,
very. Yes, we're going to put layout as bizarre, and maybe font use is slightly problematic.
Yeah,
because there is a lot of what I'll call the Nazi font, because I don't remember the actual name of it.
Old Germanic, I want to say.
Yeah, there's a very specific font that you will see over and over and over in here, and it's changed every time you use it. They like, some of it's stamped, some of it's very crisp. It does have that feel to it, which, it can be a problem, but also I'm like, you're trying to evoke a time and a place, and this was the font that they used. So
yeah. Except that's not consistent.
Right.
all.
It's not consistent at all. Like every page is a different thing. And it's like,
yeah. At one point, there's a heading that's in like bright glowing green, and at that point, my wife was like, "Wait, is this game now about ghosts? What is this?" So yeah, which is a fair point. So the other major problem that I have is the use of photographs in this book. So I've already mentioned the photograph of Auschwitz. There's let's see, we get to page 17, and we've got a photo of some people walking in, I assume, Berlin, with a bunch of huge swastika flags being draped from a building. And again, it's a personal thing, but I don't want that in my space. I don't want swastikas in my life. Thanks. I get enough of that on Twitter.
Yeah, well, so. and that's a fair cop. I think it's like there's this spray paint drip.
Yep.
And then they lined out the page is called The Rise of Nazism, and then they pink line out Nazism.
Yeah, for no reason.
For no reason. Like that's going to stop it from being okay. Like that's going to stop it from being okay. And then they start describing, the rise of Nazism. But did we really? I mean, these are historic pictures, showing all these people okay with it, right? But maybe not. Doesn't need to be here.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's. I feel like I understand your point, but I also understand that this, is trying to show the historical time and place.
Oh yeah,
right?
no, and I totally get that. But I don't think it's strictly necessary. I mean, again, they're giving a kind of a short introduction, like a really kind of potted history of like, oh, this is what the Nazi regime was. And I'm like, okay, cool. So this game is for people who know nothing. This is like the first time they're hearing about Nazism. Like that's how it reads to me, at least. Like they're describing who Adolf Hitler is. Like, okay, fine. I just it makes it confusing again about kind of who this game is meant to be for. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's just Picard facepalm. I'm just gonna keep using that GIF.
Yeah.
But yes, over and over and over again, they kind of like make this. They kind of make these kind of relatively small, condensed statements about, this is not supposed to be, fun. This is not, this is not an endorsement. This is not, this and that. But then they're not doing anything to endorse it, but they're also not doing anybody any help, like giving you any help about at this all. So
yeah. But my main problem kind of comes on the next couple of pages, entitled the Undesirables.
There are pictures of people who've been interned with their numbers and their stars and their stripes of being interned.
And at first glance, I thought, oh wow, they've created some really kind of photorealistic illustrations, because who in their right minds would put photographs of actual people interned in concentration camps in a role-playing game?
Yes.
But nope, that's what they've done. Those are photographs of actual real people, to the point at which actually one of the people at the bottom has their number and their surname, and Juda above their names.
Yep.
Jew. I'm sure if I did enough digging, I could find who that was.
Yes.
And what happened to them. Like, again, is that the Picard face palms, for days.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I thank you for pointing this out because I was so concentrating on reading this thing that I did not stop to really like ingest the kind of like photographs of real people. And that's just a no. Stop.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Like, it is one thing to have, and like, I believe there's like a Van Gogh, like just straight up reprinted in here.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I missed that.
Like page 60, 61
Page 60.
is the skeleton smoking, which I believe is a
Van Gogh. Is that a Van Gogh? Okay.
Yeah, it's a Van Gogh. Well, I don't know how to say it properly.
I always say Van Gogh, but Van Gogh,
whatever. But I bought. They have these like fully immersive art experiences that they've been popping up in empty spaces, and like they have the Van Gogh. I'm just gonna keip saying it differently until I don't.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with Van Gogh. And they have this like the skeleton is like one of those things that kind of like breaks up the like fields of flowers and clouds and shit. So there's like this like anyway, they sell like a flask, and I got a flask with the skeleton with this cigarette. Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like they go most of the stuff in this book. I mean, it's not often, but there's definitely still, quite a few real pictures, but most of it is a lot of illustration and distress work. Yeah. But then it's like, really, did we need to? And there's a whole like, is first they came an educational game, thorns and questions.
Yeah, this is and I feel really want to get into this.
please get into it, because I'm kind of done with this game. So
by this point I was like, I'm done with this. But it's difficult, and it's really difficult as a Jew to talk about this stuff. And I was saying to my wife before, we did this, when you asked me to come on the podcast, I was saying, it kind of worries me putting myself out there. There's a lot of people who do. I try not to, because I don't want the grief. And
I appreciate you coming on.
I really appreciate being asked on. And I think these things are really important to talk about. But I think maybe I've lost my point there. But anyway, let's get to the this thing about so we were asking, is this game educational? And as you say, by this stage, you were kind of done with it. I found this section amazing. So is First They Came an educational game? Thorns and questions. Because they describe it as a thorny question. Is it a thorny question? I don't think it's a thorny question. I think it either is or it isn't.
If it was a thorny question, I might not have been doing this episode. So like, I don't.
Well,
I don't think it's a thorny question.
No. So they go for, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and a bit pages trying to answer this question: is it an educational game? And they talk about, what is a game? And they do a lot of really kind of intellectual gymnastics, trying to go back and forth about, what is a game? Here we go. Do we call game slot machines, turns of phrase, a LARP, a puzzle, or a quiz? Are they all games? And then it goes into, what is educational? Is in a way, is not everything an education? And it's like, they're really, really kind of leaping through a lot of hoops here. And then towards the end, they basically admit that they've just been pussyfooting around and not answering the question.
Yes.
Which I find hilarious. And then right at the end, they say, is First They Came educational? Maybe.
In the meantime, play it. In the meantime, be hurt by the thorns it opens.
Yeah, which I think is probably a mistranslation.
Yeah,
because I don't think thorns
Italian
open.
translation. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the translator had been like, okay, and
yeah,
and which is very interesting that this is an Italian company.
Mm-hmm.
The audio tracks are in English.
Yeah,
at least the ones that are linked from this book. It's just sort of interesting that I don't think that there was much lost in the translation. I feel like this was translated pretty faithfully.
Yeah,
but also like, really.
Yep. So and it's interesting because that's the little section on is this an educational game is one of a few essays towards the back of this book, which, as far as I can tell, I don't really know why they're there. Any of them. It feels a little like they're paying lip service to people who are feeling a bit funny about playing this game.
Well, also, like, I feel like if you're really trying to help people, you put this stuff at I know it's the boring stuff, right? It's not getting to the game. And if it was really helpful, which I think I agree, it's not very helpful, you put it in the front.
Yeah.
Right? This is the stuff that replaces what is a role-playing game, right? Because nobody is going to pick this up that doesn't know what a role-playing game is. But, you put this up at the front, you put your essays of why we're doing this, you put your essays of what this is about, but this is just it. It's a little too little too late. That doesn't work.
yeah. And on that note, do you want to talk about the safety tools that are in this? Because I think that's something we need to talk about.
Okay. Yeah.
No,
I agree. It's like I need to even go back and safety phrase. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Safety in play only exists if there's a community that supports it. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Works. Perfect.
Get that.
Before the session, read the character descriptions and consider the issues the characters face. Is there anything that makes you feel uncomfortable? Take some time to discuss those feelings openly.
Sure.
There's no obligation to share personal matters. You should just not ask for an explanation if someone says they would not like the specific themes to be approached in play. Okay, sure, right? But I mean, there's so many. I mean, you literally look at every character, right? And there's going to be something. I mean, just them facing the Holocaust, like it's like, right? But and then you're supposed to just use look. Let's change the subject when you're not feeling comfortable.
Yeah. In fact, I think the safety phrase is "Don't talk to me. I need to think."
Yes. So you're trying to have this like LARP or improv, right? But you have your safety phrases, but you're just supposed to like go off in a corner and think about it, right?
Apparently.
Like, am I being punished? Like, is this...
Yeah. Well. On that note, so basically, there are a couple of safety phrases, as he said. One of them is "Don't talk to me. I need to think." If you say this phrase, your character goes into pause, and other players must not interact with them. And it goes on to say you can use this time to reflect on your feelings and reactions. Under that, it says, "I'm done here." if for any reason you want to quit the game, you can say, I'm done here, and leave the playing area. You cannot undo this. Once you have stopped, you cannot rejoin the game. From that point onwards, the other players will not mention your character, who will just disappear from the story. I mean, to me, that feels like punishment.
Yes.
That to me is a really good reason not to bring up anything that you're uncomfortable with. Because if you do, you're going to have to quit the game and you're not allowed to come back. So
I have been in a game, and it was a detective game, but there was a guy that was being a real asshole to a woman at the table. Like he was just being a real asshole, and she's like, "I'm done here," and that collapsed the entire thing, right? And I was like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, "I'm also done here," because. And I tried to mitigate, I tried to help, I tried to mitigate, and then it was just, I'm done here. And and as soon as someone says that, the whole thing collapses. And which,
of course,
it should collapse, right?
Yeah.
Because if somebody is that far, just
if someone's having that bad a time and someone has behaved in such an appalling way to them, then like what are you going to do? Say, oh, okay, well, we'll see you later. We'll see you later. Okay.
Well, you're not supposed to acknowledge it. That's the you're not supposed to acknowledge that they've left, right? That it just, so I don't think it's a very safety tools. You're right. This is literally like, well, we got some, So, but Alex,
yes,
I think I'm done here. I think I'm done. I think I'm done here. Let's if you've got a closing statement or something, or a closing thought, let's have some closing thoughts, and let's be done here.
I think that's a good idea. I think that done differently, this could have been interesting. I think that there wasn't enough thought put into a lot of the language. I mean, again, there's a lot of using the word solution. Are you the solution in this game? Don't make a game about the Holocaust and use the word solution
the
over
card
and over
face
again.
palm.
Yeah. I don't think that we should avoid difficult subjects. I think that it's not necessarily appropriate to gamify the Holocaust, and I think there are other ways you can do it. There are other ways you could have explored these themes without using that. One of the I think it's a Amazing Anchovy on our Discord said, I don't understand a game about Nazis where you're not punching Nazis. Which
would make sense if you followed the poem, right? If you followed what the poem is trying to tell you, maybe, just maybe, this should be about resisting as opposed to giving in.
Yeah, well, exactly. And again, sorry, there's one thing I forgot to mention, which was kind of brought up today when I was going through it again, was repeatedly they talk about these real life historical figures who sacrifice themselves for us, and it's like, nobody sacrificed. This is not a sacrifice. Nobody sacrificed themselves in the Holocaust. They were murdered. These people were murdered, and so I think with some sensitivity reading, with some using some people from these different communities to look over this game, it still would have been problematic, but maybe less so.
It's the subject will always be problematic. There is really no way to not be problematic, right?
Yeah.
This is like, even if you like said, okay, we're going to fight the Nazis, we are people the Nazis are trying to kill, right?
Yeah.
So you still have to go through the list of people the Nazis were trying to kill, and then you're still going to have to choose who you're going to play, and you're still going to have to avoid being a complete stereotype.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to now there, but are you going to learn anything? No.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly.
Are you going to? So to me, I think the answer is always punch Nazis.
Yep.
Always be punching Nazis.
Always be punching Nazis. Yep.
And that is the point of this era of history. Because if you're not just punching Nazis, maybe just go read or watch something that is written from the perspective, listen to the victims of this era and other eras and read some books.
Yeah. So I have a question. How do you feel about other games that use kind of difficult historical source material? Like, so I was thinking of stuff like Harlem Unbound, which again is not it's not meant to be real.
Right.
Essentially, it's kind of Call of Cthulhu, but you're all playing African Americans in what, the 1920s? I think.
Yes,
like
it's the Harlem in its Renaissance, which is the 1920s.
Right.
Yes, this is the problem, right? Is I have that book on my shelf because I find it a fascinating idea.
Yeah.
Am I going to bring that off my shelf? I might read it to see where it goes, right? And it's written by a person of color.
Sure.
It's from the perspective of, and this is the same thing with a lot of games that are coming out that are written by that community, right? And to me, that's at least a better starting point, right?
Yes.
But no one from these communities is writing this game.
No.
Very unlikely. I don't know all these people. I haven't looked them all up. I could be wrong, but I doubt I'm wrong. But I think it is interesting to be in those times and places, right? That always be punching, resistance is, something that is cathartic, right? That we can have these times and be resisting, right? But if you're not, yes, I'm stumbling here because I don't have a good answer, right?
No.
My answer is I would like to play these Harlem Unbound because I think it's an interesting time and place. And as long as everybody is playing together and learn, and not even learning, because you can't really learn. You can just try and tell stories where these characters, these people, whoever they are at the center of those stories.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all you can really do, I feel like. And it's not a great answer, but
no, but I think that's fair. I agree. I think the setting for that game is really interesting. And I would like to pick it up just to read it, but I can't see myself ever bringing it to a table because I don't think I have I don't think I would be able to do justice to that community. I don't know how I would, but it's interesting because there are blurred lines. I've played a whole campaign of L5R,
right,
where I was playing a samurai, and that was fine.
Yeah, well, it's and this we could do a whole nother show on this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
absolutely.
and I think Mark Dries Truman, I think, is the person that I always kind of look back to when, because he's published some interesting, Narwhal and Cartel and some of these other, he says you should just play,
Mhm.
make mistakes, understand that you've made mistakes. You will always make mistakes no matter whether you realize them or not. But if you have found something you can connect to with, at least you have something, right? It's
Yeah,
not just, you're not just, there touring 1920s Harlem, right? You're facing your characters are facing some of those problems. It's the same problem I had with like Velvet Glove. Velvet
right.
Glove is a game that's supposed to be about a gang of females uh, punching up the patriarchy. That's the job of the game master, is to be the patriarchy, right? And I could run that game because I am part of the patriarchy, no matter what I want to say, right?
Yeah,
And seeing the players punching the patriarchy and getting victories would make me very happy, because I'm
yeah.
not a fan of the patriarchy, right?
Yep.
So, like, running a World War II game, right? I'm going to be running a bunch of Nazis,
Sure. Yep.
right? But seeing the players kill a bunch of Nazis,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If I'm Harlem Unbound, right? Likely as not, it's going to be a bunch of white people that you're going to be facing, right? So,
Yeah.
seeing a bunch of white people get punched in the face for being a bunch of rich sex
Yeah.
occultists, right?
Great.
I'm good with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But in
Sure.
this game, there is none of that. There is no learning there that you should be doing in this game.
No.
There is nothing. You're not empathy is. You should just go talk to a doctor if you.
Yeah. But this is it. It talks about empathy a bunch, but you're right. It's this game basically. You're right. Nobody is a hero. In fact, you're all villains, and the core of this game is basically like everything is terrible. You're all going to die, or you're going to sell each other out, and you have to decide like who deserves. Like basically, you all had it coming in some way or another.
That's that. I mean, I feel like that's the real problem. I mean, there's a lot of problems in here, but that's the real problematic thing is you were all being hunted,
yeah,
because you're one thing, but also apparently you deserve it.
Yeah.
So like that, yes, there's a lot of problems in here. I mean, we've gone through a lot of them, right? But the fact that they all kind of deserve it is, and I love playing bad guys. I love playing Fiasco. Fiasco is amazing, right? You're all a bunch of assholes. You all deserve it, right? But you really do deserve it.
Yeah.
But you're also not playing Fiasco in the Holocaust.
Yeah. And that's kind of what this is, isn't it? It's Fiasco in the Holocaust. And yeah.
And Jason Morningstar endorsed this.
Really?
Yeah, it's on the Kickstarter. And that's why I was like, oh no, please make this better. Oh, all right. I'm done here.
Yeah.
I'm done here. All right. Thanks, Alex. I'll record the Patreon stuff after I recover from this episode.
Good luck.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, it should be out tomorrow. Thanks. Alex, thank you very much for coming.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been very cathartic. This game has made me very angry, and it's been nice to vent with you.
Yes. And all right. I'll see you in a minute, everybody else.
2,000 years later.
I survived. We survived that. Thank you for listening to that. And that was incredibly difficult. And I am glad that we got through it. And I really appreciate Alex for pointing it out. And I appreciate them for letting us have a copy of it on a PDF. But we have patrons to really thank for this fine work, because without the patrons, I would not have the mental energy to get through that deep dive. Patrons like Alex, patrons are the lifeblood of this show. They will continue to, as their continued support helps me keep going. And if you can't just support the Patreon, I understand. Times are tough. Times are getting tougher. But if you want to do some more help, more support, you can always review the show. These are some new reviews on Apple Podcasts. We got 2 reviews in the last month or so. These 2 reviews are: great podcast for folks interested in RPGs. I really like listening to the podcast. Lots of different formats. I like the ones where they dive into specific games. You're welcome. Rich, the current host, is relatable, straightforward dude who's likable and easy to listen to. Thank you. You're likable too. To find out about and encouraged to do more of that about the hobby and the RPGs every time I listen. Thank you, P-Pum's Nasty Gum on Apple Podcasts. And as well as a fantastic RPG podcast, RBK provides a great insight and unique voice about our beloved hobby. Well, you're beloved too. I love you. 628. I'm not even going to read the rest of that because it could be your phone number. I don't know. I'm not going to read that, but 628, you're beloved too. If you're interested in supporting the show in just some monetary ways, we've got t-shirts. You just go to the fullmetalrpg.com and you can go to our merchandise or any other place you want to follow us. The Discord's always hopping. We just had the episode of Fortune Seekers and Grave Robbers previous to this on the feed, and there's been a lot of discussion about the mega dungeon they were talking about as one of the many, many options. P.S. Fuck James Raggy. Yeah, that's about it. And wow, that click is really... I'm hoping they fix that. Anyways, thank you very much.